The CEO of Ford, Jim Farley, recently admitted that the future of the automotive industry might not be completely electric. This shows how complicated and uncertain the electric vehicle market is. Thus, despite being a leading player in the EV transition, for instance, by investing heavily in electric models like the Mustang Mach-E and F-150 Lightning as well, Farley's statement demonstrates growing awareness about how completely electric tomorrow might be, much more than we thought. It's a proof that car manufacturers are grappling with technological change, consumers' choices, and limitations on infrastructure. One such concern is the current state of the EV market, which faces significant headwinds despite impressive growth. These include high production costs, limited charging infrastructure, and range anxiety among consumers about range and battery life continue to act as stumbling blocks towards its adoption. Therefore, from his remarks, it seems like a mixture of technologies, including hybrids and alternative fuel sources, may make more sense than an all-pure electric approach. In turn, this would enable Ford to adopt more flexible strategies that will help it sail through turbulent market conditions, as well as regulatory frameworks. The Ford supervisor has quite recently dropped a bundle of truth bombs on the wallowing EV market over the most recent few days as reality slams into strategy producers' EV order dreams. Back in the primes of 2021, Ford was gung-ho about Zap promising to go all electric by 2030. Ford truly, whether this accepted at the time it would do, or whether it was offering just empty talk to the political breezes blowing at the time, will presumably never be aware yet. What we truly are aware of with conviction is that when enterprises like Ford lose $100,000 on each EV it makes, there's just so many misfortunes of that scale that it can bear prior to standing up against the dream universe of commands. And the incredible news is that an ever-increasing number of individuals are starting to understand that there's insufficient crude materials like copper in the whole world, and B power age limit in the lattice for a full progress to EVs by 2035, or for that matter, anytime near 2035. Tremendous companies like Ford and GM will just not make do, assuming they go on down the way the approach creators need. Thus, as market reality and corporate endurance begin to conflict with clueless and whimsical government commands, there will be a few exceptionally fascinating times ahead, so put your feet up and get the popcorn out. The declaration from Ford Jim Farley has been making the rounds in the recent days, pushing back not simply on the philosophically determined and totally unfeasible charge orders, yet additionally on associated vehicles, as we'll find in a moment. Yet first, here's the express deal on Ford's difference in pace on EVs. Ford president cautions brand won't contribute in EVs except if there's a non-debatable change. Ford supervisor Jim Farley has given a significant admonition over the future of electric vehicles, with the American brand recommending models should bring in cash previously greater venture is conveyed. Farley has cautioned the organization will not put resources into EVs except if the American Goliath will be productive. Farley even focused on that the future of motoring might not be completely EV, with the potential rest chomp for petroleum and diesel models in some limit. I mean, this is so blindingly clear that it continuously flabbergasts me that individuals who ought to be aware far better keep on saying that this progress can occur in a decade. I've said on many events that I trust gas-powered motor vehicles will keep on framing part of the energy blend into the final part of the century. I prefer not to say it, however. Just a bonehead might actually think in any case. It comes after Ford's EV unit detailed weighty misfortunes in the primary first quarter, with figures adding up to $1.3 billion across the initial 3 months of the year back in 2021. Ford affirmed that 100% of Ford's Traveler vehicle range in Europe will have zero discharge emissions fit by 2026, proceeding to ring into all electric by 2030. Ford UK have since pushed this back to 2035 in accordance with Rishi Sunak's delay. Now Farley has cautioned it was non-debatable that EVs need to become productive sooner instead of later. Obviously, it's not unexpected, since if EVs aren't beneficial, they quit building them. They fabricate stuff individuals need to get, it's ridiculously clear, addressing The cash initial bid show, Jim said, "First of all, we won't put resources into the fate of EVs except if we're persuaded. The fact that my work makes wheel useful, not going to designate cash flow to my administration group or anybody in the organization. On the off chance that we don't think will be beneficial in the following pattern of items, that angle is unquestionable. It's non-debatable. Wow's all I can say, and elsewhere in the world." The Ford supervisor descended hard on security parts of associated vehicles, which are right now sucking individual data from anybody who goes in one and sending it God knows where, and I don't recall having to click a little agree box to permit this do you. He further raises protection concern over driving vehicles weeks after UK's declaration, and has given a basic security cautioning around self-driving vehicles with worries over information protection. Jim Farley has cautioned producers need to take protection genuinely with present-day vehicles set to become information-catching machines. The manager of the American Vehicle Monster cautioned safeguarding information that was imperative for independent vehicles, which can turn into somewhat controlled. He focused vehicles, accompany a ton of risk with information at the very front of Mr. Farley's concerns. The admonition comes only weeks after the UK government declared new driving regulations, which will see independent models on England streets in 2 years or less. Mr. Farley offered the comments when inquired as to whether it would be before long workable for vehicles to be ready to converse with one another. Talking on Hooray Money's initial bid show, Jim answered, "Obviously. However, you should allow it to share your information very much like your telephone. No doubt that doesn't occur. And keeping in mind that it could be perfect for vehicles to converse with one another for security reasons, you should rest assured that assuming they do, each excursion your vehicle causes will be kept someplace in the cloud, and perhaps a lot of individuals don't need their day-to-day developments followed by obscure organizations, scarcely neurosis. No, not need to that in a free nation." Are we still in a free nation? Let me in the remarks. He was additionally forthright about self-driving vehicles and the dangers they present. They can be somewhat controlled with independence. They can collide with things. They are a part of risks with a new carefully empowered item, and our strategy creators need to find that reality in 2023. The Office for Transport DFT given a code of training around independent vehicle testing, which raised worries about driver information to the DFT close by other government offices. For example, the middle for associated and independent vehicles focus on that driver information would be safeguarded anyway. That is entirely okay then. At that point, I'm totally consoled. It is so relieving to hear this sort of talk from the president of a vehicle producer with a cloud of Ford. Up until presently, these organizations have entered ENT-AED, the strategy creator's dreams, in something similar way as you'd engage a baby, paying attention to all the fantasies and obliging it for a better peace. However, when the elastic hits the street, it's the ideal opportunity for the games to stop furthermore reasonable individuals to dominate. Ideally, Jim Farley will end up being one of the reasonable individuals we want to save every one of us from his franticness. So what are your views on the present condition of electric vehicles? Share your views in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.